Oh, hello. So I'm Nicola Slater. I'm head of learning and development at Engine. And yeah, I'm really happy to talk to you about kind of how we implemented Thrive and how we're using it. But yeah, definitely happy to take questions and just kind of make it interactive as well, which is probably more interesting than just me chatting on. So I'll start. Oh, sorry. Do you want to introduce yourself?
No, not at all. Oh yeah, so I'm Will, Business Development Manager at Thrive, so I'm going to be helping to orchestrate this session today and just having a chat to Nicola about her experience with Thrive and our learning experience platform.
Cool.
On to the first slide then, shall we?
Yes, please. So I thought perhaps it made sense to start with to give you a bit of an overview of Engine, because if you're anything like me, you won't have heard of them until I started working there. And it's good to explain kind of the context of the sort of business we are, because I think that explains a little bit about how we're using Thrive and learning in general, really. So Engine is, I guess, probably the easiest thing to say is a consultancy, but split into 4 sections, what we call pillars. So there's a communications pillar, which kind of does PR and kind of product launches and things like that. There's a creative pillar, which does advertising. The transformation pillar does kind of digital transformation work. And then the central pillar is kind of the overarching support functions. So that's things like finance and the people team and so on. And they're actually quite separate and siloed at the moment. So each pillar has its own CEO. And then we have an overarching CEO called Jim, I'll talk about a little bit. But they are quite separate. There's not an awful lot of mixing goes on between the pillars at the moment. So again, this is something I'm kind of trying to work on, really. And I started work at Engine in January, just this year. And as part of kind of the whole interview process kind of leading up to that, so this time last year, obviously I got to talk a lot to Helen Alton, who's our head of people. She's my boss, and Jim Moffat, who's our overarching CEO, about what they were looking for, because I'm their first head of L&D. Until I came along, L&D was done within the pillars, because each pillar has its own small people team as well. But there wasn't like an overarching strategy or kind of, a general Engine L&D. So they decided that it would be a good idea to have an L&D person, but I am the L&D team. So when I say I'm head of L&D, there is just me. Although I will say I do get a lot of help from one of our people advisors, Sophie Perks, who may be on the call, and if she is, hello, Sophie. So Sophie helps me out and has helped me an awful lot with Thrive. But generally, I don't have a team. There is just me. So I was asking them during the interview process, what did they want? And something Jim said kind of stuck with me. I don't know if you want to move on to the next slide. Well, this isn't a direct quote because I can't really remember it word for word, but it was along these lines, which was, we've got an awful lot of expertise within Engine. We don't have a product to sell. We sell our time and our expertise. And Jim was very, very keen that we find a way to free that knowledge up and share it amongst people, rather than insisting that knowledge has to come from outside Engine. He was super, super keen on kind of this social side of getting people to share that knowledge and finding ways to make that happen. So when I joined at the beginning of January, that was very much kind of on my mind. And I kind of came up with a bit of I suppose, a learning strategy, vision, all that sort of stuff. And one of those was very much that what we wanted to do in Engine was create a learning culture. So again, I don't know if you get that. Fantastic, thanks, Will. So these were the tenets of our kind of main learning strategy. So learning has to be self-driven. So the individual owns their own learning and development, and it's agreed with their line manager, but it's not top down from me or from the people teams within their pillar. It's very much driven by any given individual. We wanted to get to a point where learning is continuous, that it's not just considered to be classroom courses, or I've been on 3 courses this year, but it's about what can you learn at the point at which you need it, and also, shorter opportunities and all that kind of stuff. And then the last bit, obviously, is that learning is social. So it's about learning from your colleagues. Coaching and mentoring are an important part of what we want to start doing. So this was very much the agreement of where we wanted to get to.
And Nicola, if I could just ask, so in terms of the learning culture when you got there? Was there a lot of work to do to get to this point, or what was the lay of the land like, I guess?
I would say yes, there's a lot of work to do. I think the idea of people having development plans is more common in some of the pillars than others. So that is still quite bitty, and like I say, some people are better at that than other places. I think the learning being continuous, where learning happens and you don't realise, that's great. Although obviously this year's put a bit of a spanner in those works with everybody working from home now. But I think there was still quite a view that learning was about going on training courses.
Sure.
And I think the learning is social. Like I say, people will still learn from the person sitting next to them, but we don't have any formal kind of coaching or mentoring programs yet. And like I say, a lot of knowledge is stored in people's heads. So it might be shared with their team potentially, but probably not across their pillar, and certainly not between the pillars.
Yeah. So it was being stuck within like the pillars or within the teams, and the vision was to get it out and get it available to everyone, I guess.
Definitely, that's definitely the driver behind having, I think, that centralized L&D approach really is to make that happen. So when I started in, like I say, at the beginning of the year, my view was very much, okay, these are our priorities, and I'd intended, I hadn't really thought about having a platform until probably next year, if I'm honest. I thought, I've got plenty of work to do here. Let's get some of this going first, and then let's worry about a platform. And it became very obvious within about a day or two of walking through the building that the current infrastructure would not let me do that. We have SharePoint, but it's not necessarily people's first point of attack for information. It's a bit clunky, it's not laid out great. If I wanted to sign people up for a training course, for example, it would be via a shared Excel spreadsheet, which is all a bit painful. If I wanted to share videos, if I wanted to host videos, that was going to be really tough, and all that kind of stuff. And it just became really obvious that to enable this, I was going to need some technology as an enabler. So not really as an end in itself, but definitely to enable the kind of stuff we wanted to do. So I started thinking about what I wanted. And I came up with a list of requirements. And if you want to move on to that slide, Will. So this is kind of in order, to be honest with you, but not strictly. But those top two on the left-hand side were my top two requirements. It needed to be really easy for end users to use, because I did not have the time or the resource to do training sessions on it. And the second one down, it had to be really easy for people to create and upload their own content. Okay, because there's only me, I can't be responsible for everything that goes onto a platform, because it won't, live and breathe that way. It needed to be a joint thing. I did not want a platform that was viewed as the L&D platform or Nicola's platform. I wanted it to feel like a business system that everybody could share and could own and had a part of, really. So, and obviously lots of other requirements in there, modern and appealing. It had to link with our HRIS system. It needed to be able to host video, written material and classroom courses. It has to come with some great content already. So I had a big list. Oh, Natalie's lost audio. I'm not quite sure whether that's me. I'll carry on.
Still hear you.
Fantastic. So I had a big list of requirements, and I was already aware of Thrive. We'll perhaps chat about that in a second. But I did go, I think it was to the Learning Technologies Conference in February. Fantastic, thanks, Natalie. And had a look round and kind of assessed everything. And, other platforms did better at some and less good at others. And, you know how these things go. But it boiled down to me, actually, in the end, for that second one, it must be easy for people to create and upload their own content.
Yeah.
It was made really clear to me that was super important. So that was my
great. And I guess if you got any advice for anybody that's looking at learning platforms, would your advice be just that, to get a few sort of key things that you need from the learning platform, not to be overwhelmed by everything that it offers, just have these core functionalities that you want to tick, and then anything on top of that is a bit of a bonus? Is that how you went with it?
I think so. I mean, realistically, all of these were nice to have, but that second one was often the decider between, oh, look, this does this beautifully. You're fine, but it doesn't do that very well. And I just was able to then keep coming back and not being, because you can be swayed by, oh, look at that. And then when you realize that that is not your top priority or even your second priority, but it would be nice to have, it gave me a lot more confidence when I was moving ahead with my final choice to say, here is why I've chosen this system.
Yeah.
Because obviously these things, there's a lot out there, and it's a big decision to make, and, financially and all that sort of stuff, you don't want to choose the wrong thing. So I think for me, having that list and saying, okay, I've got this and this and this, and you're not necessarily going to ever tick everything off, but I think as long as you've covered your key stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can really help. And like I say, I think for me, and the reason I wanted an LXP over an LMS, and this is just kind of my personal interpretation of the difference between the two, I was much less concerned about me and my needs, and much more concerned about the users and the users' needs. So in my last role, we had a big LMS, and it was a very complicated one because it was split across different companies and different countries and stuff. But my experience with that was very much that it was owned by the learning team, that we chose the content to go on there, we pushed it out, we had a huge amount of impact in what people saw and what they did. As it says there, we shaped the user journey, we drove their experience. And like I say, with particularly being a team of one, but I think I feel the same generally, I want users to own this and to be able to go on and find what they want and to be surprised by the system, have the system go, oh, well, you enjoyed this, you might enjoy this as well, that kind of stuff. So it's more the users driving their own kind of experience of the platform. And it not being dictated by me, but being kind of owned by everybody, really. So, and just that last point there, the bit about compliance training, we're just moving ours to Thrive now. So when I joined, all of our compliance training was hosted on kind of external platforms by the provider, but all of those contracts are coming to an end, and so we are now moving to Thrive. We've created them as school modules. It works fine. We can report neatly on them and all that kind of stuff. So
perfect. So you were looking for a platform that not only did the mandatory delivery of content, do this by this particular date, whether it's a SCORM or a video or a PDF, but also have the self-directed areas where learners can just go and further explore subjects that they might be interested in and push different types of content that they might be interested in, or different groups that it's associated with.
Exactly that. And I think actually what we're looking to do with the compliance stuff is make it a bit more exciting, engaging. So as well as pushing it out once a year and having Thrive do all the reminders and pushing it out and all that kind of stuff, because Thrive hosts much more engaging content like little videos or quizzes and stuff like that, what we're probably going to do is every quarter send out a related quiz or additional piece or something, just to keep these things alive, as opposed to the tick box exercise that that compliance training often is, really. So.
Engaging compliance, I'm sure that's the golden nugget everyone wants to see.
It's a dream of mine. I don't know whether we'll ever get there, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I say, and I'll talk a bit later on about one particular example of where I think the difference between the LMS and the LXP really comes out. But yeah, and obviously the other thing, and we'll talk about this in a second as well, is an LXP was an awful lot easier to implement than an LMS as well.
We'll get on to that. So just a couple of questions which I'm going to ask if that's okay. One from Sophie, she's asked, how do you ensure that the content that other people upload is relevant and appropriate? I suppose we will be touching on this when we look at the platform, but do you want to take a go at that now, Nicola?
I think that's a really good question, Sophie, and it was a question I had. I think really early on in the conversations with Thrive, I did have a little bit of a wobble because there isn't like a user approval and all that kind of stuff. And I was reassured both by existing users of Thrive and by Will. And actually it made sense to me as well. If people want to upload inappropriate content, we already have a million channels for them to do that. You know, we have Slack, we have email, we have SharePoint. If people wanted to start being inappropriate, they'd do that. I think in terms of what you class as appropriate and relevant, I am fairly free and easy on that, which is if somebody thinks it's interesting, somebody else will probably find it interesting. So you might see when we go into the system in a bit that it's not necessarily all learning content, if you like. I think we had one internal session where somebody taught their colleagues how to do a head wrap, and that's on there. Well, it's learning, right? And it's interesting, and it's not like we have a size limit, so it's not pushing out other content. And I think there's such a joy in watching people put up links and content that matter to them, that nothing has gone up so far that I have even given a moment's thought to. And there's been a lot that's gone up there that's made me think, oh, that's interesting, that's good, I'm glad somebody shared that, and so on.
Yes.
So I think I can understand if it makes people wobble, because it made me wobble, but actually the reality of it is people know, right? People know what's acceptable and what isn't.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And again, user-generated content is such a great tool. I think the pros definitely outweigh the potential cons with it. Cool, thank you, Nicola. And then another question, just quickly from John. He said, how much of your requirements list was built in line with the business requirements / feedback of what they wanted? So did you have a chat to the different CEOs of the different pillars, or did you get any feedback at all?
I would say when it came to the actual requirements for the system, it was mostly driven by me, if I'm honest. We were quite early on in the process of me being at Engine. Some of it was built with a stakeholder group. So we had a stakeholder group and I sense checked it with them. But I think because Engine didn't have anything before, there wasn't really a sense of, oh, we must have this, this and this that we used to have. So I think there was almost a lack of knowledge about what there was, what it could be. And I think they took my expertise as a guide, which was, if Nicola thinks this is what we need, then this is what we need. So,
lovely. Real. Okay. Well, without further ado, I think it'll be good to have a look on the system. We have had another question of how do you inspire people to share content, but we are going to be touching on this when we go into the platform. So we're going to do just that. So I'm just going to try and find my mouse wherever it is and come into the platform. So this is Nicola's, this is Engine's learning experience platform, which has been provided by Thrive. And just before we delve into this a little bit deeper and explore how Nicola's using our learning experience platform, I just wanted to take a moment to explain what Thrive is really. And I guess Nicola has already given you an introduction to what a learning experience platform is. So in short, Thrive is a learning experience platform, and Thrive have almost picked the best parts from a traditional LMS, a social learning platform, and also a communications platform, and pulled it all into one really nice experience for the users. But a big focus of Thrive is being able to make sure that every learner who accesses the platform has a personal experience as well. So they're accessing content that is specific for them, whether it be the job role that they're associated with, where they are located in the world, or even down to the skills and their interests. And we'll touch on that a little bit more. So yeah, that's Thrive in general, but enough about that. We can talk about how Nicola's actually using the platform. And just before we sort of have a walk down the front page and show how you're delivering some of that content, Nicola, I guess just to take a step back a little bit to give a picture of where we were when we first started our conversations until now that it's live. So we started, well, I think it was last year that we started having our first conversations when you were at your previous organization. And then you moved to Engine, and I checked earlier this morning, the first email you sent to me was on the 9th of January. So at which point you'd taken a look at all of those requirements and pulled together those requirements that you mentioned. So yeah, it'd be lovely if you could tell us a little bit about the story of that first email, reaching out to providers to sort of bringing you to today or to when you launched the platform and what that journey was like.
Absolutely. So like I say, I did a bit of exploration. I was aware of Thrive because we did chat kind of in my last role. Although I think I said to you then, can't really chat more because I'm thinking of leaving. But I think after I'd done kind of the exploration and settled and I think, you know, was really starting to move towards Thrive as a decision point, I think we then got in touch. I remember you came to the office. Goodness me, it's like an entirely different universe.
That's not a thing anymore, is it?
No, absolutely not. And kind of you gave us a bit of a run through and all that kind of stuff. And then I think what was super helpful for us as well was you gave us a kind of demo version. and you did a sterling job. I think you'd populated it with a load of our adverts and stuff, which was very impressive. But that really helped us to see what it would actually look like in the usage of it. So we could put it in front of stakeholders and potential users and say, you know, how does this feel? Is this exciting? Would you use this? Is this easy to understand? All that kind of stuff. And we actually moved really fast, didn't we, Will? I think we signed on the 19th of March, and we went live on the 21st of April. So
which was, yeah.
I think our customer success manager at the time said it normally takes about 12 to 16 weeks, and we did it in 4. And that was primarily because of everything that was happening in March and April. So actually on the 16th of March, which was the Monday, everybody at Engine was asked to work from home that day because we didn't really have a culture of working from home. And we were asked to do it to test our servers and all that kind of stuff. And we never went back. So that was the day, and then that was it. So we signed that week. And I remember hearing from Helen that our CEO had been telling everybody it would be up live at the beginning of April. And I was a bit like, hey, that's a bit too fast.
Just slow things down a little bit.
Your expectations a little bit. We weren't that much far behind. And it was really nice at a point where everybody was kind of at home and floundering and feeling a bit kind of strange and what is going on, to be able to launch Thrive and to kind of shout about it and stuff like that. So the actual implementation process was fabulous because you guys have thought all this through. There's a separate website where you kind of spelled out all the different steps I needed to do, which again was great, particularly as a team of 1 or 1.5 with Sophie. It meant that we knew what we needed to do and that we'd got all of our boxes ticked, that we weren't suddenly going to go live and realise we'd forgotten something important. We did have some exciting challenges. I mean, at the minute with the screen like this, you can't really tell, but you'll see as we go down the screen, it's very image heavy. And at one point during implementation, one of our very senior stakeholders decided he wanted all the images to be in red and black to suit our company colours. So I spent a very long day changing everything into red and black, only for him to say that actually he preferred it how it was, and I had to change it. There were some challenges in implementation, but they weren't about Thrive or the system. It was more about kind of what our stakeholders understood an internal learning platform to be, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So all of a sudden, learners who had never had a learning platform before at all within the organization, then moving to working from home all the time, which is another new experience. And then you pushed a new learning platform in front of them. So I know that you haven't got it on this screen, but it might be interesting for you to explain how you use the platform to introduce the platform to the learners with the introductory videos and everything like that.
Absolutely. I mean, we did it all through the platform. So I don't have any pinned at the moment, but normally, if you can see there on the screen, underneath where it's got the dates, 1st of October to the 31st of October, normally you can pin content to that area. So if you've got some stuff that you want everybody to see, you can pin stuff there. And when we launched, we pinned a bunch of stuff there that I'd created on how to use Thrive. So there was a 2-minute video on how to upload a piece of content, on how to create a piece of content from a link, on just what the different pages did within Thrive, on how to filter your content. And we just had a bunch of stuff along there, and even some guides on how to create good looking videos and stuff like that. The other thing is, when people log on for the very first time, you can have a video set up that they watch as part of that initial onboarding process. And so that was me just explaining a rough overview and then pointing them at the different videos and stuff like that. So I have never needed to show anybody how to use Thrive. And obviously we've had quite a few different people uploading content, which you'll see shortly. But I think the vast majority of people have just sussed it. I don't even necessarily think they've had to look at the video of how to do it. I think it's inherently self-explanatory. So.
That's a good quote. Marketing can put that one on the website. Note that one down, Cassie. Okay, cool. So thanks very much for that, Nicola. That's given a really good introduction to where you were and where you are now. So what I'd like to do is just walk everyone through the homepage of your platform, really. And Thrive is the main page. The homepage of Thrive is a good opportunity to deliver different pieces of content to to different learners. Lots of our clients use it in lots of different ways. And Nicola's used it in a great way to highlight different campaigns that you've been running or you've been promoting within the organisation, and keeping them pinned to the homepage, so learners again can come onto the platform and just explore stuff that they might be interested in. So yeah, starting right at the top, Nicola, you can see that we've got the Black History Month campaign and some content associated down here. So do you want to tell everyone sort of a little bit more about that?
Sure. So basically, at the end of September, Sophie and I put together a lovely new campaign about working from home. And then on the day before, so the last day of September, September 30th, at about 4:30 in the afternoon, I got a call from my boss saying the CEO would like Thrive to reflect Black History Month for October. So it took me about half an hour to pull this together with creating the banner and curating the content and stuff like that. So, you know, we definitely changed the front page quite a lot. We want to keep it live and vibrant and all that sort of stuff, but it doesn't take very long to do. What we've done with Black History Month is it's not really that interactive. We've chosen another methodology for people to put their own tributes up. So we're doing that kind of using Kudo board. But I just wanted to curate some pieces, and you can see there I've curated a bunch of them just from The Guardian even. So, you know, in terms of finding new content, it's so easy to create content from a link. And obviously, if you're borrowing it from The Guardian or somewhere like that, it even gives you the image and the spiel and the title and everything like that. And it just then links off straight to the website that you've taken the link from. So actually curating content, yeah, you've got to find it, but then actually creating the link on Thrive is really, really straightforward. So
that's great.
So that was Black History Month. And obviously, I've just put a note in my calendar that I need to do something to set up the next campaign, because obviously when this one finishes at the weekend. So our next one will probably be, I'm just about to kind of launch a suite of live training around kind of managing by results. So it'll probably be around that, I think.
Okay, awesome. But again, like you said, it only takes an hour or so to get things changed. So yes, that's awesome. So I was just showing people the different types of content that you've got within that campaign. So you've pulled in a video from YouTube there, and as you can see, it embeds really nice within the platform. Within content pieces, we've also got related content, and we've also got a linked content area as well, so you can manually link content together for the users. Got a description and a comment section if people want to ask questions and leave comments. And then other types of content that you've got on here, we've got a link to a website, and it's just embedded nicely within the site itself. So learners aren't flicking between different places if you don't want them to. And as you said, we've got that Guardian piece as well. So even though it is a link to an external piece of content, it embeds the picture nice and easily for you to make your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, actually curating and creating content in here is super fast.
So that's the first sort of campaign or highlighted content that you're using on the front page. Moving down the homepage again, so we've got this. I think this is a new campaign that you've put up recently around potential live sessions. So for those that don't know, Thrive has the capability to upload loads of different types of content like we've just seen. So videos, PDFs, websites, videos from YouTube, articles, but you can also create events within the platform. As I understand, Nicola, events is something relatively new to you guys that you've not put on the platform yet, but you're using this this campaign in order to gauge people's just to put the feelers out there, see if someone might be interested, I guess.
Absolutely. So this just went up this week, and I was asked not to spend any money for most of the year, as people can possibly imagine. All of a sudden in Q4, I've got some budget backs, and now I'm looking at getting some external training up and running. But I don't want to put sessions on if we don't have the demand for them, because I'd hate to run a session and have it half empty and all that kind of stuff. So we actually polled out to the business and we said, you know, of this huge list, which of these would be most popular? And we got some feedback. And so what we've done is we've set up actually the top 6. We've set them up as dummy sessions. So effectively they're sessions with just one space, and then I've signed up for that space. So there are no more spaces. But then people can sign up to a wait list. So yeah, fantastic, join wait list. And then I can see how many people are potentially interested in that session. Then when I actually set up the session with the external trainer and I've got a date and a time and all that kind of stuff, the Thrive will email all the people that are in the wait list and say, hey, there's now a session for this. Here's a link to click to go and sign up. So if you think about what we've had up to now, which is, hey, here's a shared Excel spreadsheet, people need to log on and find space and all that kind of stuff. It does feel like a leap forward. Obviously at this stage, because Thrive is still quite new to people, we are shouting about these sessions on other platforms as well. So we're sending them out. We have a Thrive Slack channel, which is about L&D. And also, you know, where pillars have kind of team meetings and stuff, people are talking about them from the people team. But it seems to be working quite well in that we've got plenty of people signing up for them. And obviously, you know, we expect now live sessions to become more and more of a thing on Thrive as well. And obviously every live session will also have some related content, you know, some backup material and all that kind of stuff. So we're really expecting this to drive much more engagement with the platform, because there'll be a lot more kind of content related to each live session as well. So.
Yeah, and I think with the current situation that we're in, we're seeing a lot of our clients that are using this functionality more and more. So, of course, like you have got here, this is an online session. As you'll know, Nicola, all you have to do is create the event. So whether it's in Zoom or Google Hangouts or Teams, create the event, grab the link from that, put it within the platform when you're creating the event. And then 15 minutes before the session starts, the learners are able to access that link. So it's able to facilitate the people that are working from home at the minute. But when people get out and about and back into the offices, it is also, you are able to book sort of face-to-face events and put the event details in there and how many seats are available and things like that. So yeah, I'm really glad that you're able to use this tool, and hopefully it will be a good tool going forward and drive lots of engagement on the platform.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, you know, it is just that thing at the moment, you know, people are really, really busy. I think whilst they know that Thrive is there and there's lots of good stuff, finding 5-10 minutes to go and have a look is not necessarily happening for a lot of people, because they've got their heads down and they're working away. Whereas they are signing up for courses. And then I think if that's their first introduction to Thrive, it's another great way of actually getting them in. We made a really conscious decision up front that we wouldn't drive engagement for engagement's sake. Yeah. So we wouldn't, you know, you've got lots of great functionality in terms of kind of badges and all that kind of stuff. And we decided that we wouldn't necessarily get involved in that, but that we would try and drive engagement through having good, valid content. So I'm not measured on the engagement figures, because we know they might take a while to build up while we kind of build up our L&D offering.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And yes, as I mentioned earlier, the learners haven't had anything like this before in terms of a learning platform. They've got a completely new working life experience from working from home. So they've got a lot on their plates at the moment. So you can't force loads of things down their throats. Just a quick question from John. What's the size of the organisation or the head count there at Engine?
Oh, okay, John, sorry, I meant to explain that at the beginning. There's about 600 of us. We're all in the UK, and normally we are split between London and Manchester. But obviously at the minute we are wherever anybody wants to be.
Wherever everyone is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a particularly big organisation by any means. I think I was used to working somewhere much larger before this. So.
Brilliant. Okay,
So
moving. Sorry, go on, Nicola.
Yeah, no. So the live sessions, and then this is the campaign that Sophie and I were running, which was making working from home work for you. So it's just a selection of stuff that we would hope would help people. Especially, we put this together, you know, when the government recently announced that whole, actually, can you go back to working from home again?
Yeah.
Because people had started coming back into the office, and for an awful lot of people in Engine, they are extroverts. They really like being in the office. And we felt that there was quite like a bit of an emotional crash around having to go back home again. So we wanted to put up a bit of a campaign and some material to kind of help people through this next phase, if you like. So
great stuff. So if I just look at a few different pieces of content on there, so you can see you've got links to websites, you've got some files in there, again, links to Guardians and some videos. I think I looked at this piece of content earlier, and it's a really nice e-learning module that you've developed. Is that right, Nicola?
Yeah, this is something I created using a tool called Genially. So
Genially, that's it, yeah.
Genially, Genially, and I'm not paid by them, but I do really like their product.
They are really cool, you're right.
I really like creating content, but my design skills are non-existent. And the really nice thing about Genially is it has a huge number of templates that all look great, that you just kind of fill your own content in. But you can see there that info button in red. You can click off to other links. You can click and have pop-ups on the screen. You can have hover-overs, all kinds of stuff going on. So it's very, very interactive. So for example, in other modules where you've got a lot of content, you don't need to have it all on the screen. You can just have it pop up as people are interested in certain bits and all that kind of stuff. So I've created a lot of stuff now in Genially, and one of the great things about it is you create your content in Thrive as a link back to Genially. So if you need to update something, you don't need to re-upload it to Thrive. You just change it in the Genially app, and then it's automatically updated in Thrive. So it's really nice for kind of content. So for example, we've got a piece on like morale in remote teams, and every time I come across a new great idea, it is John, yep, that's the link. Every time I come across a new great idea for creating morale, I will just go back and add it in, and it's just super easy to update. So, but I would say that's one of my more sophisticated looking modules. Some of them are a lot more kind of cartoony and fun, but I really like to mix it up. I'm not a big believer that all of our content needs to look the same. In fact, I like it to all look different. So
yeah, that's
and then
really
the other
cool.
thing I use, that remote brainstorming one, I also have a Beyond license.
Okay.
It used to be called Go Animate. So if it lends itself a bit more to something a bit more fun, then I will just create a quick sort of 5-10 minute video. Again, when I first got Thrive, I was taking PowerPoints and just turning them into PDFs. But when Thrive itself is so engaging and interesting to use for people, you want to make sure the content is also kind of fun and funky. So now everything I create is either through Genially or through Beyond, really. So.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the idea of creating content in a tool that allows you to put it on your learning platform as a link, so then you can carry on editing it outside of the platform, and as soon as you edit outside it happens within the platform as well. So that's really cool.
It makes life easier. And actually some of the other people advisors have got Genially licenses as well. We bought some for other people in the team so that they can update stuff as well. Nice. And I'll come to why we're using that shortly. But
great.
Yeah, so that's working from home working for you.
Yeah, so the working from home, it's sort of more content for just anybody that wants to explore the content that might need a little bit of help with this new scenario and just assistance in this new world that we have found ourselves in, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely.
It's our big thing at the minute, really.
Okay, moving on to Share Something. So how are you using Share Something within the platform?
Sure. So Share Something, I think, was our second campaign after kind of our launch campaign. And this was trying to encourage people really quickly to start putting stuff on Thrive. We didn't want to leave it 6 months. So what we actually did before we launched the campaign was we went to various people on the exec team and said, would you mind adding something? And they, joined in with gusto. So we launched the campaign already with pieces from our CEO, pieces from Emma, who's the CEO of the transformation pillar. Some of the other senior leaders, I think Greg, who leads part of the comms pillar, shared a little piece from Goodwill Hunting that was all about being yourself and being true to yourself and stuff like that. So we launched the Share Something campaign. And again, I think we still had pinned to the top how to add links and how to add content, but we got a lot of people sharing content. And interestingly, it's really mixed, the sort of things people are sharing. So as it happened, we launched the campaign around the time that the Black Lives Matter thing was kind of in the news. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people were obviously very engaged in that, so shared a lot of content around that, which was great. And yes, you can argue that's not strictly learning and development, but it comes back to that argument I had, which is somebody finds it interesting, somebody else is going to find it interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that goes over, you can see there's a real mix of stuff. There's some stuff about what we do, but there is some kind of generic stuff. I think I shared something about those rockets that kept collapsing until they finally got it right, to encourage people to keep trying. And you can see now some of the later stuff is where we're doing external webinars or internal Zoom calls. People are then just uploading them to Thrive as a matter of course now. And I think that's great. I would love to run this again early next year to get some more people sharing content. I think we've got more to do on this.
That's cool.
But it's snowballing, right? And that's great.
Yeah, and I think that was so just to sort of think back to the question that's asked by someone earlier, but it was sort of around how do you inspire people to upload content, and if you do allow user-generated content within your platforms, how do you get people to upload content? And I think campaigns like this, where there is a sort of a goal that everyone's working towards together and something that they can contribute towards, is a really good idea. I think this is a really good idea to get people on using the platform and uploading content. And it's not just content for that particular time frame. So this is a campaign about share something. Share something's not always going to be on your homepage, I imagine. But once they've uploaded it to the platform, it can be used in other formats. So maybe during an induction process, you want to sort of introduce people to John during the induction process. You can use that video as part of that, and people can explore it on the platform.
I mean, I go in and check every now and again to see what's been added into Share Something, to see, do I need to add extra tags on it to put it into places where people might find it differently, you know, because some of it is really, really valuable and you want to build it in to be part of your kind of core offering, as well as just kind of part of the Share Something. So even things like that, stillness and sound, 15-minute meditation with music. We have an area for mental health and well-being. And I thought, well, that's a really handy thing to have in there, you know, so that people at any point, if they're feeling a bit overkill, they can go into that area for mental health and well-being and find this easily without having to go through Share Something and say, oh, I remember seeing that and stuff. So I do go through and kind of reclassify some bits to make sure that they're much easier for people to find. That's
great. And again, that was user-generated content, so it wouldn't have otherwise have been on the platform if they didn't upload it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Lovely.
It's great stuff.
Okay. Right, moving on further down the homepage. So we've got Discover Engine on the left-hand side here. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I will do. So when we launched, before launch, one of our senior stakeholders was very, very keen that we had a bunch of content in Thrive that helped people learn about other parts of Engine. Because like I say, we're quite siloed between the pillars and between the teams within the pillars and all that kind of stuff. And so it was decided that we would get teams to create these Discover Engine videos where they explained who was in the team, what they did, who their best clients were, and all that kind of stuff. And I would say, and then it stopped, right? After go live, the people that were pushing that kind of moved on to other things and all that kind of stuff. And I would say this is one of our peculiar issues within Engine when it comes to user-generated content. Which is because we are client facing, because we are used to producing really great work for clients, there is a massive reluctance to do this in an ad hoc amateur fashion. So you'll see there when Will started that video, you know, it had a Thrive flash and then some animation and then the screen all moved and all that kind of stuff. This particular one had 4 different edit goes through the film team. Every time it came back, they were like, could you just change this bit? And could you just change that? It was like, oh, it's on an internal learning platform. It's not going out to clients. It's not. But because of the perfectionism within our company, it is proving really hard to just get people to pick up their iPhone and go, hello, my name's Nicola and this is what I do. And this is what I do. So I think we need, again, to kind of push that and maybe get a couple of teams to do some low quality ones. That sounds awful because that's not really what I mean, but some more kind of rough and ready ones that still give the message, that still give the useful information, but that don't need to win an Oscar, right?
Yes, I agree. And my internet's struggling to keep up with us here, but I think you're exactly right. It is great to be able to have that resource within your organization to be able to edit those videos and make them look really fancy. That's a great resource to have. But with user-generated content, the key is authenticity, isn't it? So making sure that it's rough and ready, picking up your mobiles and sort of taking a video and sharing that with whoever you think will be interested in that. And I think that will be a big driver to help people to sort of do that even more so going forward.
Those are our most used content, right? They are our most popular content by a mile. And it's like, if we created a dozen more, they would still be super popular as well. And it's really frustrating to be held back by, oh, but, you know, we need, and obviously at the time we were doing it, it was just at the beginning of lockdown when our film department was quite quiet. They are not quite quiet anymore. So they can't even do it, even if we wanted them to. So.
Oh, that's a good excuse then.
Yes, that would be my excuse.
If someone tells you off for a quick and ready video on how to do something, then your excuse is video department were too busy.
Yeah. I can do it, but I'll be doing it in quite a rough and ready way, I can promise you that. There you go. So yeah, and then obviously the For You area is kind of suggested by Thrive, and it's lovely algorithm. So it's just telling me what it thinks I might be interested in, really.
Yeah, that's right. So just to expand on that, because I think there was also another question of how content is personalized to people. So here within this component, you've been able to filter, or learners can click, and it will bring up content that they're particularly interested in, that's been directly shared with them, that's been assigned to them, and also based on people that they're following within the organization. But there's really 3 core ways that Thrive recommends or personalizes content for learners. The first one is more of a traditional LMS way, which is via audiences. So you can group learners into different audiences based on whatever you want to, really. This can be pulled from your HR or data platform, or it can be manually created within Thrive. It's basically saying, Nicola, you're based in London, so you're getting this content, but Will, you're in Nottingham in tier 3, so you're going to get some bad telling off content. Or it could be your job role, your location, or whatever you want to in terms of audiences. The second way is via interests. So if I were to just quickly jump to my Me profile, you can see that learners can detail their skills and their interests. So then if Nicola uploads a piece of content and tags it with leadership, I've displayed an interest in leadership, so that'll be showed as something recommended to me. And then the final way that we recommend content is just via our behavior. So when you're on the platform, you can pin content, you can like content, you can comment on content and view it. And the more you're interacting with the platform, the more the system starts to understand you and the way you like to learn, and tailors the recommendations even further. So that's how we create a personalized learning experience, and that's what this For You component's pulling through there.
And I think at the moment, because people aren't necessarily as engaged as we expect them to be over time, that's why that's quite low down on the screen. My expectation over time is that will rise, because as that starts to become more relevant to people, then that's something that we definitely want to feature more near the top, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's a process where you're going to, and you know how to get there. It's just a case of working through the motions.
Yeah. And then at the bottom, we just have another standard thing, which is just what's new. So again, people can easily spot what's recently been added.
Some of the latest stuff. Okay, brilliant. That was awesome. So yeah, thanks very much. So that's sort of the homepage and how you're delivering content to the learners on the homepage.
Yeah.
What I'd just like to quickly quiz you about, Nicola. So I found this piece of content earlier, and I've actually pinned it. So you can pin content within the platform, and I've easily located it up here. And it's this particular piece of content here around career paths.
Yeah.
So yeah, are you able to just give us
Of course,
get my words out? Are you able to give us an overview of what you're doing here and what this is all about, really?
Yeah, so we have a problem, and I don't think we're unique in this, which is that it can be quite hard for people to understand how to get promoted, in blunt terms. So it's difficult for people to understand, A, how they should be performing now, but B, more importantly, what they need to do to get to that next level. So we had a couple of different designs, but this is where we've ended up. And for teams, what we've got now is a very easy way for somebody in that team to see what competencies there are in that team, what job roles there are in that team. And then, so if you click on any of the competencies, you get like an overarching view of what that competency is. If you click on any of the job roles, you get an overarching like job description. But where it gets really useful is in that combination. So for an account executive, for the competency of client handling, for example, if you click on the magnifying glass, it will show you, that's all right, it will show you what that competency actually looks like for that job level. So that detailed breakdown of, what you're expected to be doing. More importantly, it will show them what it looks like for the next level. So if I'm an account executive and I want to be a senior account executive, instead of that one, Will, if you can click on the client, that one, beautiful. I can see, okay, I need to now be responsible for keeping the client folders up to date. I need to be contributing proactively in meetings. I can see what I'm needing. And then brilliantly, if you click on the mortarboard at the level before, the account executive level, That's
this
the
one
one.
here.
Yep. That will show them what the learning options are to develop the skill in that competency to reach that next level. So it might be, hey, do some on-the-job work. It might be, here's some areas in Thrive. It might be, here's a particular learning course. It might be, read this, watch this video, get a coach, stuff like that. But the intention is that everybody will be able to see, you know, not just how they should be performing at the next level up, but what learning and development interventions there are to get them there, so that then we can build that culture of people driving their own learning and having those valid conversations with their line manager about what their development plan should be. The great thing is, because we'd love to live in a world where line managers are super engaged in this, but we all know that's not always true. The nice thing about having these available to everybody at any time is that even if your line manager is not super engaged, you can still do this for yourself. You can still access that learning, and you can still kind of build your own development plan and stuff. So we wanted to make it really kind of democratic. So at the moment, we have these for everybody in communications and everybody in transformation. Creative have started working on theirs. I helped IT kick off theirs on Friday. So obviously the team needs to go away and decide all of its competencies and its competency per job role.
Yeah.
And then it will be my delight and joy to go in and start filling in all the multiples with what the learning and development options are. So I'm looking at a timescale of having that complete, hopefully by the summer.
Yeah.
It's quite a big chunk of work. But even going live, we've put them live at least with the magnifying glasses filled in, so that people can at least have that conversation in January, for example, about, okay, I know I need to work on this, this, and this.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, even if they don't then have the learning options, they can then come to their people team or to me and find out the learning options. So
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's getting great feedback. It's getting great feedback. People like that transparency, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool way of delivering this type of content in the platform. And like I say, it's going to be a lot of work, but when it's on there, it's an unbelievable resource for learners to come to, find what they need to do to get to the next step, and then use the content that's within the platform in order to get there.
And I saw a question or a chat pop up that said, how do you deal with content overload? And I think that's a really valid question. And I think that this is one way to deal with that, which is, yes, you can go into Thrive and browse around and be interested, but actually this will tell you the targeted stuff that is super useful for you. So it's one way. Another way is using paths within Thrive. This is actually created in Genially. So that tool that we were looking at before, that I did my Zoom fatigue thing in, this is just another Genially thing. And like you say, as you can see, you can click and it pops up. This is why we've got licenses for all the people advisors, because they will maintain these. You know, if something needs to change, they can just go in and type the change. They don't need to actually recreate the whole thing. So I need to have some help on this. I can't do it.
Nice, yeah. Another way that it just doesn't have to fall on your lap to do. Well, thanks for explaining that. Really appreciate it. And I'm conscious of time, but I did want to show everybody how you're using the Discover area as well. So of course we've used the homepage to push content to learners, but Thrive also has both a search engine, so you can search and find content, but also the Discover area. And the Discover area, with this example, we've got 7 different tiles, and it's just an opportunity to collate the content within the platform and put it into areas where learners can say, well, I want to learn a little bit more about management and leadership. So they can go into management and leadership, and then go into leadership in general, and they can search for, they can explore all of the content that are under those titles. So yeah, do you want to tell everyone a bit more about how you're using that, Nicola?
Yeah, sure. So I think this is one area where I learned a lesson from the last LMS implementation I did, where we designed this kind of stuff based on the structure of the L&D team, not based on what was inherently made sense for users. So with this one, we did a lot of work up front to work out what the best way to arrange all this stuff is. But this tends to be where I will link to. So if I'm trying to tell people about specific bits of content, I will link to it via the Discover area.
Sure. Because
this is effectively our catalogue that stays the same, because we change the front page so much. Can't really guarantee. But you can see, you know, when we launched, because you have an integration with Get Abstract, we launched with a bunch of Get Abstract content. If people don't know what Get Abstract is, it's like kind of précis of business books, but also TED Talks and podcasts and things like that. So it meant we could launch with a bunch of content. Obviously, we've got your off-the-shelf e-learning content in here, and obviously the links, and you know, and this is the thing, if somebody puts something up and just tags it with share something, it won't automatically come into this discover area. But that's where, if I spot it and I think, oh, that could be super useful in such and such an area, I will add the extra tags to make it come into the discover area. So I know there are different ways to do it within Thrive. You can endorse a piece of content, I think.
Yeah.
Say that this is actually approved by the L&D team.
That's
Didn't really
correct.
want to get into that again for our implementation, but we do it kind of using the discover tags instead. So
yeah, that's really cool. And again, it's sort of thinking back to that vision of the CEO wanting to be able to have an area where learners can just have a self-directed learning area where they can go and find content, and this is just that. And I think you've used it really well, especially with this management and leadership stuff. It's packed with loads of different content. Like you say, pulled in the content from Get Abstract, which Thrive have an auto curation tool with. You've got all the TED Talks in there and links to websites. You've used some of our off-the-shelf microlearning modules. So there's a real range of different types of content that learners can just go in and explore if they're interested in it.
And I think, you know, because you can create paths that connect a bunch of content together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just about to launch a bunch of live training with backup material on managing by results. We'll probably create that as a path, so that instead of having to find like lots of different bits that are relevant, it will all be kind of connected together, and then people can do whichever bits of the pathway they want to do.
Do you have any pathways that you know off the top of your head that I could search for just to share? No worries if not.
I think there might, I can't remember where off the top of my head. I know we've
That's
got,
all right.
But I'm trying to remember where they are. I think it might be the new starters bit, but I'm not sure.
No worries, that's fine. And then I'd love to just delve into this little bit here that I saw earlier around Engine Broadcasting Corporation, because I thought this was a really cool idea. So could you tell everyone about how you're using the Discover area for this particular section?
Yeah, so effectively what we have is some standard kind of internal talk. So Stay Curious is a half an hour that we do every month, where it is 4 or 5 different 5-minute talks from people in the business, any topic they like, right? And again, they were stored on SharePoint. Nobody ever went back and looked. So before go live, I just chopped them up into their individual films and loaded them. And we decided to call it the Engine Broadcasting Corporation. But it's you know, not necessarily relevant to individual topics. It's just somewhere you can go and kind of watch a talk, really. So
that's really cool. And what I thought I'd mention, without stealing marketing's thunder much, I might get told off for this a little bit, but to keep it very high level, we're soon to be bringing out a piece of functionality which is called broadcasting, and it will actually allow individuals to broadcast to the organization. So one-way broadcast, and you'll be able to interact with them. You can sort of do polls and quizzes, and when they finish the broadcast, they'll be able to save that as a piece of content on the platform as well. So it'll be able to be similar to that, but it'll be more of an automated process. But I won't say much more, because I'm sure something's coming out over the next couple of weeks from marketing and we might get told off. But I thought it'd be a nice opportunity to talk about that there.
nice.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm conscious of time. We're 2 minutes to 3. So I guess opening the floor to any questions now, if anybody's got any burning questions that want to get answered. The first one I've got, Nicola, is about stakeholder feedback. So what's it been like? Now, you put that message at the start there from the CEO about what they wanted. How has it been received?
Really good. I mean, the CEO created a video when we launched it saying how much he liked the platform and wanted people to use it. The sheer fact that he's come back and said, I'd like you to have a Black History Month section. He is very, very behind Thrive, which is great, you know, from that kind of top-down thing. And like I say, feedback from the business as a whole has been really positive. Like I say, I think our big issue at the minute is A, time, and B, kind of driving people in. But inherently, they like it. They just wish they had more time to use it, I think.
Another question we've got here, which was asked a little bit ago, so hopefully they're still on. They said it looks really good. How does the learner experience differ from a normal LMS, and how is the platform learner driven? If I could just sort of quickly mention the fact that it's learner driven based on those sort of 3 personalisation methods that we mentioned earlier. So the learners are seeing exactly what they're interested in, or what as groups that they're associated with. But it does have those traditional LMS capabilities where you can push that content to people. Have you got anything to add to that, Nicola?
Yeah, I think, you know, given my previous experience, it is a lot of it is around that front page. It's that stuff around, hey, you might like this and this is connected to that, but also the fact that they can share content with each other, they can like content, they can add comments in and stuff like that, which yeah, we certainly struggled to do before.
Cool, thank you. I'm not sure if I'm putting myself out here or Thrive out here, but Duncan's asked a very targeted question of what doesn't Thrive do that you would love it to do?
Saw that and I got an answer for that because I was trying to do it yesterday. One of the things, again, it's that back end stuff, right? It's the stuff that pleases me. So one of the things, because we're about to start doing live training and Will might be about to turn around and say it can do this, what I could do with my old LMS is automatically send out an in-platform evaluation form. Okay, what I'm going to be doing here is I've created one in something like SurveyMonkey. It's not actually SurveyMonkey, but it's that kind of thing. And I will just send it out manually afterwards. It is no big deal, right? As a trade-off between the user experience and my experience, it's a trade-off I'm happy to have. But yeah.
That's absolutely fine. And I guess, like you said, it's sort of prioritizing your key requirements on a learning platform. But as Nicola will know, when things like that do come up and you do have things that aren't in the system that are needed, you've got a really close relationship with your customer success manager. You'll be able to feed that back. We've got a voting system with all our current clients, and that will go onto that system. And if it's something that's of a high priority, we'll be able to put it on the roadmap and get it developed. But
I mean, I've seen a lot come in this year that wasn't there in January. That has been great. So you see it developing all the time. It's terrific.
Perfect, thank you. Hope that's answered your question, Duncan. Another question is, how do you come up with new ideas for content, Nicola?
Oh, crikey. So on a day-to-day basis, it's as I'm scouting around the internet. So I will read Harvard Business Review. I'm on a few mailing lists, stuff like that. So creating and curating links is that kind of stuff. From actually what makes sense for the business, we are very much business driven. So it's not me as L&D saying, I think what the business needs is X, Y, and Z. It is very much fed up from the business through the people teams to me. So for example, this stuff we're just about to do on management by results has very much been driven by the business needs, not by me. So I'd say it's two, you know, those bigger pieces driven by the business, the smaller pieces. It's what I find interesting, right? It's like everybody sharing stuff on Thrive. It's if that looks interesting or useful, whack it up on Thrive.
Brilliant, that's really cool. And then there's one final one, unless there's anyone else that wants to send any more through. What advice would you give to someone looking to upgrade from an LMS to a learning experience platform, if any?
Oh, crikey. I think for me, it was very much, it was that change of priority. It was about centering the learner. And yes, you might have to take a little bit of pain from an L&D perspective, but you will have to do so much less admin and maintenance that you've got more time to kind of do those things. But definitely, as an anecdote to finish with, in my last company, we'd get people coming to us and going, have you got anything on topic X? And you'd say, have you checked the system? No, I haven't checked the system. What's happening at Engine is people are coming to me and going, have you got anything on topic X? I've looked on Thrive and I can't find anything. And that, I know it's anecdote, is not data, but that's definitely the difference between the two. It is much, much easier for people to find and search and see stuff than it was where I was before.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Okay, lovely. So I think that will probably conclude today's session. I can't see any more questions from my vision, but I think unless Cassie can see any.
I think that's everything, guys.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I guess I'll hand over to you, Cass, but Nicola, thank you very much. That was really enjoyed that, and I hope everyone else did as well.
Yes, big thank you. Thank you, Nicola, for joining us today on this webinar, and thank you everyone for tuning in. So the recording will be available in the next few days. We'll make sure to email it out to everyone. Our next webinar will be at the same time on the 25th of November, where we'll be joined by the L&D manager at Sumo Digital, and we're going to be discussing how to create continuous learning moments and move away from traditional long-form courses. So in the meantime, if anyone has any other questions or wants to hear for anything more from Will and Nicola, please feel free to email us. So it's hello@thrivelearning.com. Getting lots of nice thank yous in the chat, guys. Everyone's saying thank you, Nicola and Will. Really useful, very useful. Thank you. Great informative session. So lots of appreciation there for both of you today. So thank you again. And I think we'll end the webinar there. So thanks, everyone, and we'll hope to speak to you all soon.